Welcome to episode 510 of AI Brief. I'm your main host, Amin, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Leah. We have a seriously fascinating deep dive for you today.
We really do. I mean, the stack of notes we are looking at is just packed.
Oh, absolutely packed. So to give you a quick preview of what we are getting into today, we're going to look at this wild internet experiment where art critics just ruthlessly mocked a masterpiece because they thought it was AI.
That story is just unbelievable.
It is. And then we are pivoting to OpenAI's massive new move to connect ChatGPT directly into your bank accounts. So covering a lot of ground.
And the narrative through line for all of this, the thing that really connects these updates, is that complicated relationship we have with trusting AI. I mean, whether we are judging its ability to actually create art or, trusting a language model with our life savings, it all comes down to trust and hidden biases.
That is the perfect setup. So let's jump straight into this whole Monet Gate saga. This is our first major update today, and it is something else. So there is this conceptual artist who goes by SHL0MS, and they posted an image of a Claude Monet water lilies painting on X.
Just a straight-up classic Monet.
Just a classic Monet. But the catch is they claim they generated it using AI. They explicitly asked the internet for critiques. They basically said, tell me why this is inferior to a real Monet.
Which is just baiting the internet. And of course, the internet completely took the bait.
Oh, they swallowed it whole. Thousands of users confidently just trashed this image. They were calling it slop and saying it was totally emotionless. People were leaving these long pseudo-intellectual takedowns about how it lacked depth.
I saw people saying the mathematical reflections of the light on the water were fundamentally broken.
Yes. But here is the massive plot twist. It was not an AI generation at all. It was a literal, authentic Monet painting from 1915. I mean, think about it like a blind wine tasting. You take a priceless vintage Bordeaux, right, and you pour it into an empty cardboard box of cheap supermarket wine. You serve it to these renowned critics, and just because they see the cardboard box, they spit it out.
They suddenly taste cardboard.
Exactly. I mean, they claim it lacks complexity. And that is exactly what happened here on X, just on a massive digital scale.
Well, and to give some context to that, it is not just an isolated internet joke. Our sources actually point to this really fascinating recent empirical research out of Norway that backs this up.
Wait, there's actual research on this specific bias?
Yes. They did these blind aesthetic tests with thousands of participants, and they found a huge contradiction. Basically, when people do not know where an artwork came from, so it's a completely blind test, they actually prefer the aesthetics of AI art over human art.
Really?
Yeah.
Just in a vacuum, they like the AI better.
In a vacuum, they rate the AI art higher for visual appeal, color balance, everything. But the second the researchers apply an AI label to the exact same image, the ratings just plummet. People exhibit this immediate, harsh, negative bias.
So we aren't even judging the art. We're literally just judging the label.
Precisely. The exact same pixels suddenly become cold and uninspired. And this knee-jerk hostility is growing fast, even as the tech becomes ubiquitous. It really makes you wonder what we actually value when we look at creativity.
Which is such a brilliant transition, honestly, because if we cannot even trust our own eyes with a painting just because of a label, what happens when we move to something strictly objective, like money?
That is a much higher stakes environment.
Huge stakes. And that brings us to the second major update today. OpenAI has officially rolled out a personal finance experience inside ChatGPT.
And this is not a small plugin. This is a massive shift. They partnered with Plaid to connect user bank accounts directly into the model.
We are talking Chase, Schwab, Robinhood, over 12,000 different financial institutions. If you have a US Pro account, you can now access this entirely new finance sidebar, or you can just tag @finance in your chat.
So why does this matter? Well, think about the old wall we used to hit. Getting good financial advice meant paying a super expensive human advisor or juggling 5 different budgeting apps.
One for your checking, one for your credit cards.
And another for investments. But now you are giving an advanced reasoning engine a real-time, complete view of your context. It can spot spending patterns you totally missed or forecast cash flow based on past utility bills.
But I have to ask the obvious question. The trust hurdle here is colossal. People are going to panic and think, is ChatGPT going to hallucinate and accidentally wire my life savings to a stranger?
Oh, absolutely. And that is why the boundaries here are so crucial. Currently, the model is strictly a read-only analyst.
Okay, so it cannot move the money.
It cannot move a single cent. It cannot trade. It cannot pay bills. Plaid acts as this highly secure bridge handling the authentication. ChatGPT just looks at the data.
Like looking through a glass window. It can see the controls but cannot touch them.
That is a great way to put it. Now, the sources do mention that Intuit support is coming next. That will add things like tax estimates and credit odds. But the technology is solid. The real bottleneck is psychological. Just like that Monet painting, getting users to trust that AI label with their private data is the actual hurdle.
It really is the ultimate test of consumer trust. But I know we have a lot more ground to cover beyond just bank accounts and art today. AI is making waves globally in some pretty unexpected ways. So I am going to hand the baton over to you to walk us through everything else happening in AI today.
I would love to. Let us broaden the scope a bit. Looking at the macro level, a huge theme right now is how AI is becoming vast societal infrastructure, but it is facing intense public pushback. For instance, take the new partnership between Anthropic and the Gates Foundation.
Oh, the $200 million initiative, right?
Yes. A massive $200 million deployment of the Claude model into developing nations. And it is not just putting a chatbot on a smartphone. It is tackling complex logistical issues.
What kind of logistical issues are we talking about?
Things like vaccine screening. Claude is parsing unstructured local data to forecast disease outbreaks and predict supply chain bottlenecks for cold storage vaccines. It is also doing K-12 tutoring in areas without enough teachers. It is really treating AI as global equity infrastructure.
Which is such a fascinating contrast to how we usually view these models as just enterprise tools.
It is, and that framing actually connects to what is happening at the Vatican. Pope Leo XIV just set up a new AI advisory body, and he signed an encyclical defining artificial intelligence as this generation's industrial revolution.
That is a heavy comparison. The Industrial Revolution literally reshaped human labor and where people lived.
Which is the Vatican's exact point. They are arguing that AI will fundamentally reshape cognition and morality, and we need a proactive moral framework before it is too late. It is a very deliberate historical framing.
But, and this is where the tension just snaps back for me, you have the Pope calling it a revolution. You have Anthropic forecasting global diseases. But then you look at the physical reality of the servers running this stuff. Our sources mention that Gallup survey, right?
Oh, the data center polling. Yes, 70% of Americans now actively oppose having local data centers built in their communities.
I mean, that is the ultimate NIBY, not in my backyard paradox. People want the medical breakthroughs and the instant financial analysis, but nobody wants the massive water-guzzling concrete factory built down their street. We want the digital magic, but not the physical footprint.
The survey even noted they are less popular than nuclear power plants right now.
That is staggering.
It really highlights the friction between the physical and the digital. And speaking of that bridge, there is a new hardware device called the Mark II that just raised $1 million.
Is that the physical highlighter pen device?
Yes. It is shaped like a highlighter. You run it over physical paper books, and it scans the text. You can dictate thoughts into it, and it builds a completely offline, searchable knowledge base. It does not connect to the cloud at all.
Oh, wow. So it honors the tactile focus of an actual book, but gives you digital search.
Precisely. And pivoting back to the purely digital, models are also learning to understand the physical world better. NVIDIA just released SANA-WM. It is an open source world model.
And this does video generation, right? Taking a static image and a camera path and making a 60-second 720p video.
Yes. But the key here is the world model part. It is not just guessing the next flat pixel like temporal diffusion models do. SANA-WM actually simulates three-dimensional physics.
So it understands that an object is behind another object.
And it understands how light refracts or how perspective shifts mathematically when the camera moves. It runs incredibly efficiently because it actually understands the geometry of the world.
That is a massive leap. And I see in the notes that models are also learning to improve themselves now. We have this system called Poetic.
Poetic is fascinating. It is a self-building metasystem that just crushed coding benchmarks. But the mechanism is what is special. It builds its own testing harness.
Wait, hold on. How does an AI grade its own homework? Usually you give it human-written tests.
It creates isolated execution environments. Before it even writes the code to solve a problem, it acts as the teacher and generates rigorous test scripts. Then it switches hats, writes the code, and tests it. If the code fails, it checks the logs.
And what if the test itself was wrong?
That is the brilliance of it. If it realizes its own testing rubric was flawed, it rewrites the test. It iterates on both the solution and the grading criteria simultaneously until it reaches perfection.
That is literally adversarial self-improvement, just playing chess against itself to get smarter.
It is. And as these agents get smarter, the way we interface with them is changing. Back in January, OpenAI quietly acquired a company called Weights.gg.
I saw that. They brought on 6 staff members. But Weights.gg was a celebrity voice cloning network. Why would OpenAI care about that?
Because voice is the ultimate frictionless interface. If OpenAI wants to deploy agents that can tutor kids or act as empathetic financial advisors, the voice synthesis has to be flawless. Acquiring that specific talent shows a deep investment in advanced audio.
Which brings us perfectly into the practical side of things. Let us move from the massive infrastructure and acquisitions down to the actual tools coming off the assembly line. Because our sources have a really robust list of trending tools today, and I want to highlight the exact use cases for you.
Let us get into it. There are some incredible ones here.
So first, touching back on that ChatGPT personal finance integration. The best practical use case here is checking your weekly burn rate. You do not need to open 3 banking apps and export CSVs anymore. You just type one prompt asking for your discretionary spending across all accounts for the last 7 days, and boom, instant visibility.
That alone saves so much friction. And speaking of friction, Codex is now available on mobile.
Now, I have to be honest, coding on a smartphone sounds awful. Are people really rewriting repositories on a train commute?
Not at all. It is built for triage. Say you were on the train and a server script fails, you get an alert, open Codex on your phone, and the agent has already flagged the broken snippet and generated a fix. You just review it and hit approve.
Oh, I see. So the patch pushes before you even get to your desk. That is incredibly useful.
Very practical.
Next up is the Higgsfield supercomputer, which sounds intimidating, but it is actually a cloud AI agent. You deploy it overnight to gather and summarize highly niche industry news. So you wake up to a custom intelligence briefing instead of, doom scrolling for updates.
I love that. For visual design, Krea 2 is trending. It does this mood board-based generation.
But how does it handle styles that completely clash? Like if I throw a rusty car and a neon sign on the canvas?
Its latent mapping is incredible. You drag those completely random images together and it synthesizes the lighting and textures to generate a single, cohesive aesthetic. It is perfect if you need a visual pitch for a client at the last minute and only have fragments of an idea.
That is wild. And in the audio space, there is Suno. You literally type one sentence into a prompt box, and it generates a fully produced, customized birthday song for a friend. Vocals, instruments, a verse, a chorus, all based on specific details about their life.
Moving to web design, Repaint is shifting the whole workflow. You chat with the AI to redesign your startup's landing page.
So no coding required.
0. You just tell it, make the hero section darker and move the button to the left, and it changes the layout. No CSS or HTML editing needed.
Wow. And for presentations, Riffly is doing something similar. You can dictate a high-level project summary into your phone while walking your dog.
Yeah.
The AI structures the arguments, builds the slides, formats them, and exports a finished PowerPoint deck for your meeting.
That is a massive time saver. In the marketing space, Autograph is trending. It is a drag-and-drop motion design tool.
How does that work for, say, A/B testing?
You drop a new product shot into an existing complex motion template. The AI understands the spatial masks and instantly outputs multiple animated variations. You do not have to mess around with tiler lines in After Effects.
That is huge for creatives.
Uh-huh.
And lastly, we have Genspark for Word. You draft a report in Microsoft Word, and the AI pulls, in real time, cited research directly inside the document. You never even have to open a web browser.
Looking at this whole list, especially the generation tools like Repaint and Riffly, there is a fundamental shift happening in the user's role.
How so?
You are no longer a creator staring at a blank page.
Yeah.
You are now an editor refining a first draft. The machine gives you the raw clay, and your job is to sculpt it, apply your taste, and refine it.
That really brings us full circle to the overarching tension we have been talking about today. There is this massive gap between what AI can actually do and what we are ready to accept. We see it with the data centers we block from our neighborhoods, the algorithms we are scared to trust with our money, and the art we reject as soon as we know a machine made it.
We are just in this very awkward transitional era where the tech is moving much faster than our cognitive frameworks.
Absolutely. So I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. Think back to that blind art test. If an AI can compose a perfect song on Suno or generate an image completely indistinguishable from a Monet masterpiece, but we only assign value to it when we think a human struggled to make it, Are we really evaluating the art itself, or are we just evaluating the human effort behind it?
That is a profound question, and it is something we're all going to have to figure out as these tools become our default reality. Thank you for taking this deep dive with us today. Be sure to follow and share the show with anyone trying to navigate this landscape.
See you in the next episode.